Prick up your ears.
The sound of DTM.
My car sounds like music to my ears.
My favorite sound when the car is leaving the pits.
My favorite sound, the cheering of the fans.
Crank it up. My favorite sound? The silence before the lights go green.
Full blast.
Downshifting from full speed. When I rev up my engine to its absolute limit. Too close to cool. Cheering on the podium.
Be aware.
It's gonna be loud.
Hello and welcome to the DTM season 2016. Finally we are back and it's race day number 2 and I'm here with David Coulthard. David, first of all, it's wonderful to have you back here at the Hockenheim ring. It's always good to see you. Let's have one quick look back at the race yesterday. We lost, I think, 7 cars. Do you think that's because everyone's so motivated, or what was the reason? That was pretty tough. A lot of action we saw there yesterday.
Yeah, well, I was surprised. You know, I watched from one of the garages to start with, and there was so much going on. I thought I need to get and watch it on the big screen. But really, you know, it seems that the development they've done on the cars, they're much more sensitive to the little bits of contact. So I think that the actual bodywork itself is so aerodynamically sensitive that you know, we're seeing for any contact that's flying off the car. Because there's always been contact in DTM. There's no question about that. But I think that maybe the ITR have to look at just how strong the body panels are, because we can't have all this damage being done. It did have that sense of first day back at school, and everyone's a bit overexcited and overmotivated, but I'm sure they all have their tales of it was his fault and it wasn't me. But let's see what they do today.
It's definitely going to be exciting. I think it's going to be a tight race, I bet, and hopefully with a little bit less motivation.
Yeah, well, look, again, DTM, we need them to show their hunger, their motivation, and part of this sport has always been a little bit of contact, and this is what separates it from, you know, Formula One, where it's impossible to lean on each other. But I think that the various team bosses, I'm sure, will have spoken to the drivers and said, look, we need points for the constructors, you need points for your drivers' championship, and the only way to get that is to make sure you finish in a sensible place.
Definitely. So enjoy today's race. Thank you very much, David, and let's see what today brings.
Well, great to hear from David Coulthard telling us exactly the way it was then, and there was lots of action to come, that is for sure. As we got race 1 underway, it was Eduardo Mortara then into the lead in the sunshine, but there were bits and pieces of various cars flying off, spinning, turning around and crunching throughout the race to come. Jamie Green then with one of his trips into the gravel early on in the race day, and Timo Glock and Daniel Juncadella out into the gravel as well. It wasn't the first time for Timo Glock to be pretty upset, and there his race was done. So too was Mike Rockenfeller's, and there you can see the disappointment on the pit perches. Robert Wickens, though, was having a great time of it in his Mercedes, up to P2. Eduardo Mortara, though, virtually checked out, hadn't he? Nico Muller was P3. Martin Tomczyk, another one of those that fell by the wayside, and, well, Gary Paffett and Matthias Ekström were going to get together, that's for sure. And here it is. So a bold and fairly brutal overtake by Matthias Ekström that saw bits and pieces flying off the Gary Paffett car. Eduardo Mortara untroubled. Lucas Auer, regrettably, was troubled. And there, Christian Vittoris with a momentary problem, which allowed Paul di Resta past. into P4. So it's Mortara then in the Audi, took a fine race win. Checkered flag down for him. Robert Wickens at P2.
Congrats, guys. Congrats to all the team.
So Eduardo Mortara then, first race winner, who is with Verena right now.
Edo, yesterday you won the win. Fantastic first race for the season, obviously. And today you're starting in P12 in the qualifying. Yesterday you had a good qualifying, which means that you got disadvantage for today for the qualifying. So what does that mean for the race, especially for hopefully ending up on the podium? Any chance?
Well, obviously there is always a chance, even if the chance, to be honest with you, today is smaller than yesterday for sure. But we never give up, I never give up, and Audi is never giving up. So obviously starting from P12 is it's a difficult task, yes. But we know that we have a very, very good race car. We are also slightly lighter because of the performance weight. The others are a little bit heavier. So this should play in our favor. Tires also situation should also play in our favor. So let's see.
All right, then. Well, best of luck for the race. Thank you very much, Edo, and back to you guys.
Well, alongside me is Chris Hartley, and Edo very succinctly there saying what the performance weight, and it has changed for season 2016, and we don't have an hour to tell you all the connotations of it, but actually Audi potentially in the second part of this race might benefit.
That's right, yeah, because last year they were based the performance weights on the race results. Now they're based on what you do in qualifying. The performance weights changed after qualifying an hour and a half ago. This is how qualifying formed up the grid, though, with Paul di Resta taking his 7th career pole position. Augusto Farfus lines up alongside him.
Row 2 of the grid sees the Brit, Gary Paffett, P3, and Maxime Martin, the BMW driver. Good quality from him for P4.
Row 6, Robert Wickens, who was second in yesterday's race, and Timo Glock.
Be hoping for better things today. Esteban Ocon, another good qualifying from the newcomer Esteban Ocon, and he has Tom Blomqvist alongside him.
Then we have Marco Wittmann and Antonio Felix da Costa to complete the top 10.
So we go to row 6 before we find Jamie Green, and then yesterday's winner, Eduardo Mortara.
Yeah, they're the first two Audis. Bruno Spengler and Martin Tomczyk had a good charge through the field yesterday until he hit trouble. On next up.
Then we see Nico Muller, his best qualifying from yesterday. It wasn't repeated today with Lucas Auer alongside him.
The 9th row of the grid, we got Maximilian Gutz and Mike Rockenfeller.
Then we see Adrian Tombe and Matthias Ekström, who's been successful in rallycross today, less so in qualifying.
Penultimate row of the grid, Christian Vitouras in the top 5 yesterday, and Timo Scheider.
And then we see Miguel Molina and Daniel Juncker-Deo with a grid drop will be going from the very back of the grid. And with Paul di Resta is Verena now.
The first pole for Paul since the return DTM. How do you feel about it? Maybe your first victory?
Hopefully. The aim is to stay in front, hopefully. We've had a good weekend, some issues yesterday, but the boys did a really late night shift last night, and they've got the car back to where it was, and the car for this generation looked great. It's performing good, and we need to try and maximise where we are.
All right, then. Well, best of luck, Paul. It's going to be a hot race, that's for sure. Back to you.
Oh, yes, hot, 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 that's for sure. Paul di Resta then with pole position. Eduardo Mortara with perhaps a little more work to do, as he's alluded to, from P12 on the grid. His final stages of preparation before he jumps into that Audi RS5 DTM car. So Mercedes-Benz come here to the first round, of course, with a new body shape, Chris, but because of the homologation, they've had to try and make the parts from the old car in terms of aero fit on the new car, and actually they played down their chances, didn't they? Said they'd had a very, very hard winter, but actually yesterday proved that the performance of that Mercedes is very good.
It was, yeah. They had a very good run. Robert Wickens getting second place in the race was every bit as quick as the eventual winner, Eduardo Mortara, but Eduardo had more of a head start on him and he was never quite able to close the gap. However, yesterday, because of their very good qualifying session, the Audis were heavier than the Mercedes, 10 kilograms the difference between them. Mercedes, therefore, after the qualifying and this one, are going to be exactly the same weight as the Audis, but the Audis, of course, are further back down the grid, so it's going to be fascinating to watch them coming through the order.
Well, that fascination, something we're looking forward to. The grid then, De Resta and Farfus front row, and then Paffett and Maxime Martin, Robert Wickens, Timo Glock, Esteban Ocon, Tom Blomqvist, Marco Wittmann, Antonio Felix da Costa, Jamie Green, Eduardo Mortara. So close and tight in the DTM, and then the second page, as you can see there, the rest of the order from qualifying. Qualifying for each race takes place on the same day as the race. So actually, the drivers from qualifying, as we look at the newcomer for Mercedes-Benz, Esteban Ocon, have not had an awful lot of time between the close of qualifying and the start of the race, Chris. And I wonder how that impacts, whether it's perhaps a positive thing or a negative thing.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be tough. Well, let's find out from somebody who knows all about this sort of thing. Oli Fritz is speaking to Verena. Down with you on the grid, Verena.
So you've got 4 Mercedes-Benz in the top 7, so again, very strong, that's for sure. Now, yesterday you also mentioned that one or the other drivers were a little bit maybe over-motivated, so my question is, did you calm some of them down?
Well, I think, yeah, we really talked about it. We had a long meeting yesterday, and yeah, some of them, it was their own fault. Some of them were just hit by other guys. I mean, in the end, it's motorsports. All the fans want to see spectacular racing, and yeah, we'll try to deliver a good show for the fan, but in the end, we would like to finish the race as well.
Absolutely, and Paul seems very relaxed. I mean, starting in pole, that's obviously the best situation, so what are your hopes for a podium?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we start on pole, we also want to finish there somehow. But yeah, DTM is incredibly tough. It's tough racing, and anything can happen, so it's a long race, 1 hour, so we'll see.
All right, well, best of luck. Thank you very much. And back to you guys.
Thank you, Verena. So, Uli Fritz then, ahead of DTM for Mercedes-Benz, as we look at the back end of Augusto Farfus. And he going from P2, good qualifying from Gusto. Always chipper, always cheerful, and will be going into this race with a great degree of confidence, going from P2. But a pole sitter, and the first pole since he's come back from his Formula One racing duties for Paul De Resta, who will be hoping to convert that into, of course, the race win. So he is one of those drivers that's not had a lot of relaxation time, that is for sure. In the Drivers' Championship following the race yesterday, well, of course, Eduardo Mortara is right at the top on 25 points, but with 2 races every weekend, Chris, and the order seemingly very different from one day to the next. I mean, you and I both know that we can't predict who necessarily is going to win this race today based on what we saw yesterday.
No, we look at qualifying from yesterday, qualifying from today, and it's almost upside down, isn't it? It's completely different, and they're so evenly matched. I mean, it's a quality field of drivers. They are all capable race winners, so just because a driver one day is running in 17th or 18th place doesn't mean they're not capable the next day of getting up onto the podium.
No, you're absolutely right. So Paul De Resta was one of those drivers that was talked himself on stage at a Mercedes event last night that you and I were at, and Gary Paffett was another one of those, and him going from P3, both as motivated and as determined to be successful, and Gary would love to add to another championship to his roster. And there is Augusto Farfus then, just being wished well before. It's a great onboard shot of the inside of the DTM car. What a fantastic, sophisticated, difficult car to drive these are. And, well, man that knows how difficult they are because he manages them is from Audi, and that's Dieter Gas.
Dieter Gas, yesterday you were very strong. Today Jamie Green is the best Audi in P11, so no Audis in the top 10. How can you explain that?
Well, I think not everything went together today in our qualifying session. So I think that's the result that we see on the grid today now. But on the flip side, at least, if there is one positive aspect, we start in the same way as everybody else. We have some tires, new tires left for the race, and we're going to try and make best use out of it. I hope that the race will be incident-free or with few incidents only. And definitely for us, the direction goes to the front.
All right, well, best of luck. Thank you very much, and back to you guys. The race is about to begin.
Thank you very much, Verena. Yes, the tension, the excitement, the anticipation builds as the race approaches for race 2, DTM. It's round 1 here at Hockenheim, the traditional season opener with pretty untraditional weather, it has to be said. It's absolutely glorious, blistering temperatures. That, of course, in itself will play a part as well, because it's going to be very, very hot in those cars. Tyre deg is something that's going to have to be looked at, and DT Gas made the point there that they've got some new sets, haven't they, that they're going to be able to deploy during the course of the race. That could be advantageous, particularly, I think, in the second half of the race when the fuel load is lighter, and of course that is, as we've suggested, perhaps when Audi will start to shine.
And a bit less weight to carry means less weight on the tyres, less stress on the tyres, less stress on the brakes as well. They've had 5 kilograms deducted because they were the slowest brand effectively in qualifying. That's put them onto exactly the same weight now as Mercedes, who had 5 kilograms added. Because they were the best in qualifying, and BMW were within 0.1% of the best time, with Augusto Farfus second on the grid, so they also get 5 kilograms added. That's still the lightest car, the BMW, though, so well worth considering them in the mix.
Because BMW have actually been given a benefit, haven't they, at the start of this season with a slightly lower base weight to start the season, and also just some millimetre changes to their DRS as well.
That's right, they're 7.5 kilograms lighter than the Mercedes and the Audi, which doesn't sound a lot when the cars weigh over 1,100 kilograms. However, when the times are almost inseparable in this championship, when a tenth of a second can, at some circuits, be the difference between 4 or 5 places on the grid, it will make a difference. What we did see yesterday, Dave, was lots of overtaking. We saw Maxime Martin coming from the back of the grid up into the points, and there were 2 other drivers, Lucas Auer and Martin Tomczyk, who could very well have done exactly the same thing had they not had incidents. So it is possible for the Audis to come through here, and certainly wouldn't write them off completely. It's going to be tough to win to get onto the podium, but they could still pick up some decent points here.
Well, all will be revealed over the next 60 minutes or so. There's Augusto Farfus, another one of these brilliant onboard shots that, as we go into each of the manufacturers' garages, Jens Marquardt to the very right of your picture there from BMW, and there's his charger, Maxime Martin, with Robert Wickens behind, and then Timo Glock. The cars rounding the final turn as they head towards their grid boxes. Probably hear one of the drivers being brought in.
Slow. Further, stop.
Indeed so.
A little bit further. Perfect.
Paul di Resta being guided centimetre perfect, Chris, into his grid box. And once all the cars have made it onto the grid, we await the green flag from the marshal at the rear of the pack. Here's Jamie Green and Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich, DT Gas, and others in the Audi garage.
The last car is just lighting up now. Last car in the box.
So the drivers at the front of the pack being told of the position of everyone on the grid. The green flag comes up. We'll throw the lights there. The engine note rises, so too the excitement. This is DTM season 2016. Lights out, let's go racing. Paul di Resta with a brilliant start. Augusto Farfus has bogged down Maxime Martin, and Gary Paffett and Farfus go 3 abreast. Who will come out of there ahead? It's going to be Maxime Martin.
Yeah, look at the lead though.
Paul di Resta is flown away, hasn't he?
Absolutely perfect start for the pole sitter. He's got him. He must have nearly a second on them. Spin further back there, and that has caused carnage. Jamie Green has got off into the gravel.
Bruno Spengler, I think, as well.
Yeah, Bruno Spengler, another one of them. Mortara was the one that was spun on the circuit as well. It didn't end up in the gravel, but it's not gone well for him. And Esteban Ocon.
I've ever met. He's really a stupid idiot.
Well, Bruno Spengler clearly not very happy right at the start of this race.
Relax, Bruno.
Right.
Easier said than done, I think.
So Maxime Martin then ahead of...
There's not much we can do.
Gary Paffett. But Paul di Resta with an absolute blister. And here comes Robert Wickens on Timo Glock now. Early stages of this race. This is fantastic stuff, isn't it? So safety car has been deployed, Chris, to offer aid to those 3 stricken cars that are going to need to be recovered. We have to go into a safety car, and no surprises there. So what that will do is, unfortunately, for Paul di Resta, who got a fantastic start, less so, of course, for Esteban Ocon, but for Paul di Resta, who had a brilliant start and had already eked out quite a margin, that will all be neutralised now.
Yeah, he's going to be delighted about that, isn't he? You made just about the best start you can possibly make. Look at the carnage down there. Poor old Jamie Green in the gravel trap. Esteban Ocon as well for the second time this weekend. His race hasn't gone very far. I mean, he went a bit further in race 1, but got in trouble in strife down at the hairpin and retired pretty shortly into the race. So he's got tangled up in that. We heard from Bruno Spengler, and we'll get a replay now. Sounded like Spengler was blaming Glock, wasn't it, on the team radio. Let's see if we can make sense of this on the start. Rocket ship start from Paul di Resta, though. Look at that.
Blistering start, wasn't it? And look, within the space of 2 turns, and a lot of that is due to the squabbling that was going on elsewhere, wasn't it? The fact that Paul di Resta was just able to make hay while the sun shone.
I think there were almost 2 separate incidents there. Mortara was spun around separately to the other incident, which was on the outside of the course. So I think it looks like he got a tag from behind. Yes, he did.
Yes.
But that, actually, Mortara was not involved in the other incident on the outside, was he?
So, yes, you're right. 2 separate incidents. Let's see it on board from Esteban Ocon. Right.
So I think
Jamie Green just caught up in that.
Like he got a knock from behind before it sent him into Spengler,
you're right.
didn't it?
You're right. Maximilian Gertz then from his on board.
Avoiding everything here.
Well, Jamie was doing his level best to try and avoid, wasn't he? But it wasn't going to happen.
Oof. That's on board with Ocon, isn't it? Who was kind of the sandwich in all of that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Spengler certainly was an innocent victim. He was at the head of everybody, wasn't he? It was a chain reaction. Oh dear. Good day yesterday. Oh. So he's having a word with Ocon, but I'm not entirely sure.
No, I don't.
That Ocon was the cause of that. If it looked from the onboard as though he got a little thud, which sent him into Spengler and Green and everybody. Yeah.
It was Antonio Felix da Costa, wasn't it?
Another BMW,
yeah, it was Da Costa, because Da Costa has got the what is the Blomqvist livery for this year, if you like, and I'm absolutely sure it was Antonio Felix da Costa that lumped into the side of it. Oh.
Yeah, but Spengler wouldn't know that, would he?
No.
Once he reviews the footage, I think he might be having a chat with Ocon to maybe apologise, but heat at the moment, understandably. A little bit furious about that. So di Resta. Martin got up to 2nd place ahead of all the squabbling. Paffett was way out wide, wasn't he, off the start, but managed to keep his foot in. 3rd, Farfus 4th, Glock 5th, Wickens in 6th place, Blomqvist 7th, Whitman 8th, Da Costa 9th, and Muller, yesterday's pole sitter and the driver that finished 3rd, is in the points at the moment in 10th place.
So then it's not going to be long before the safety car is back in, because Esteban Ocon's car is the final one of those 3 that were involved in that incident to be removed, and that's very nearly to safety. So I'd be altogether surprised if the safety car came in this lap. We haven't had word of that on our message screen at the moment, but well, someone's listening to me because yes, it is coming in this lap. So we will go back to racing with 54 minutes on the clock.
With all the carnage ahead, the Audis didn't really benefit from that, did they? Because we got 1 in the top 10, Tom Bay 11th, but that really, sometimes it helps you out, doesn't it, if you're trying to come through the field, but it really hasn't worked for the Audis, to be honest.
So Paul di Resta then will be hoping to get away. Maxime Martin is going to want to stay with him, so in this restart, let's see how Paul di Resta backs them up then. Of course, what Maxime Martin has got to try and do is almost second guess when Paul di Resta is going to floor that car and try and stay with him and go with him as well. And of course, Gary Paffett will be hoping to do exactly the same. So around that very banked section, you don't appreciate the banking, as you mentioned yesterday, until you actually stand on it. So Paul di Resta floors it now. Maxime Martin does relatively closely stay with him. Gary Paffett not quite so, but they all get up to racing speed as they cross the timing line now, and the race is back on once again with Paul di Resta leader, Maxime Martin P2, then it's Gary Paffett, Augusto Farfus and Timo Glock. So they all come funneling through now after this safety car restart, following that safety car period for the cars off track. On board with Augusto Farfus then, running in P4 at the moment in the BMW. And Paul di Resta once again, he is eking out that gap, isn't he? Making that his, giving himself that cushion and comfort. Mike Rockenfeller being hounded there by the number 22 car of Lucas Auer. There's Mike Rockenfeller, just a quick glance into the rear view mirror. Gary Paffett then, and Maxime Martin and Augusto Farfus also. That's where Gary Paffett received a lot of damage yesterday with Matthias Ekström. He's battling with Maxime Martin now over P2 at the moment. Brilliant tracking shot as we follow them.
He's going to have a lunge here, isn't he, Gary Paffett? Down the inside. Can he keep it? Can he keep it? Yes, just about. Second place. Gets a little tap for his troubles on the way out of the corner, but the Mercedes ahead of the BMW, and now he's got to try and give chase to Paul di Resta. So Martin down to third, Farfus fourth, then Glock, and then this big battle that's going on further down the orders. They all fan out from one another.
On board with Matthias Ekström, who's in that mix as well. And that looked jolly exciting, didn't it? And we stay with Matthias Ekström. He has Nico Müller ahead of him. Brilliant onboard shots that we can see. So DRS has been enabled now. Gary Paffett trying to get on terms with Paul di Resta. The rest of the pack come through. So it's Nico Müller that's running in P12, then it's Antonio Felix da Costa. And this in replay then. It was a perfect execution by Gary Paffett there, and to be fair, Maxime Martin gave room, didn't he? But then just a little love tap to say, yeah, well done, friend. And Gary Paffett does go through. Round of applause from the Mercedes garage for that effort. Look at this. Well, Antonio Felix da Costa really in the wars at the moment, isn't he? That's for sure. Round the hairpin they go. For the first time I think we've seen, we've got Lucas Auer and Christian Vettoris absolutely side by side in the two pink Mercedes cars. But battling with Maximilian Goertz is Matthias Ekström. And again, another brilliant onboard shot so that we can see that battle playing out ahead of us. Oh, and very, very wide off to the runoff area for Matthias Ekström, who's spending his time looking in the rearview mirror as well.
Great sense of speed from these. I mean, in qualifying this morning, the average speed of these cars was 175 kilometres an hour. Absolutely fantastic. They're within centimetres of each other here. Brilliant. A bit out wide there, and it's going to get the place back. So Goertz out wide. Eki gets through. Rockenfeller tries to do the same, but Goertz closes the door just in time.
Well, there was a touch between the two of them, wasn't there? But Matthias Ekström has made that place. Right, Bruno Spengler was one of those, and out earlier on. He's with Verena now.
That was a pretty tricky situation you got in there, Bruno. I guess nothing much you could do, but from your point of view, what exactly happened?
I mean, I was just turning into turn 2 and I felt a massive hit from behind, and I just spun, and Esteban Ocon's car was stuck in my car, so I thought it was him. That's why I was a little bit pissed off, but I have to say sorry to him, apologize, because he couldn't do anything about it. So it's not his fault, and it's just a bit bad luck. I think he was pushed from behind, and then he couldn't stop the car and just crashed into me. So yeah, I don't know who was the starter of this, whatever. I mean, yeah, it's just an unlucky situation. Now I just hope that BMW will score some good points in the race today, and I concentrate myself for Spielberg.
Thank you very much, Bruno, and back to you guys.
Thanks, Verena. Well, you can imagine how Bruno Spengler is feeling, and his colourful language reinforces that.
Can help my lot. You want to stop?
Just like Goertz going all over the curbs there, which stemmed his progress somewhat. So Mike Rockenfeller, Becky's already got back in front of him. And Rockenfeller's going to have a big go now as well to try and do the same. You're on board with Mike Rockenfeller. He runs out and twitches a bit wide as well, though. And look at the queue forming up behind him. Miguel Molina is the next one in line. He's going to try and get through.
I just wonder whether Goertz's car has been compromised by the little tap he received from Matthias Ekström.
Guys, now go away. It's possible.
There's a real fight going on there, isn't there? Gary Paffett not making too much headway on Paul di Resta, is he? There's a 2-second margin between P1 and P2. And there is Paul di Resta, who's got the benefit of having the clear track ahead of him, and everything else is going on behind, isn't it?
Yeah, the BMWs are going with Gary Paffett. He's not got away from them, has he? The lap after he got into second place, he was a little bit slower than di Resta. That lap, he was half a tenth quicker, so it's very, very fractional. But certainly Martin, Farfus, BMW's much lighter, of course. They're 7.5 kilograms lighter. They're going with him, and Timo Glock in that mix as well. Running well in 5th place, ex-Formula 1 racer. There is Matthias Ekstrom. Max Goetz pulled away a little bit now from Mike Rockenfeller.
I'll tell you what, Goetz is staying with him, isn't he?
That's right. One of the Muka cars has dropped back a little bit as well, hasn't it? It was just behind Auer that's dropped back and falling into the clutches of Edo Matara.
So we go on board with Maximilian Goetz then. He's in the Mercedes that's following Matthias Ekstrom right now, and Matthias Ekstrom did, after many, many tries, eventually get past Maximilian Goetz. Max will feel that he did that in a rather bullish way, and that's perhaps charged him up to keep him right with him here. So any opportunity he gets to try and repay the favour, he will do that for sure. So Matthias Ekstrom and Maximilian Goetz then, and this incidentally is the battle that's going on at P13. Action wherever you look around this DTM race at the moment. Here comes Goetz. I said he was going to have another go. So we stay on board with Maximilian Goetz right on the back of Matthias Ekstrom. Look at this on the inside of Matthias Ekstrom now. On the exit of this, will give him the right line for the next turn.
Look at Rockenfeller trying to get around the outside as well. He's passed by 2, one either side. Goetz gets him. Then the yellow and green machine, and Mike Rockenfeller, the former champion, gets past him as well. Out wide goes Molina. So Matara gains another place. Watch for Matara in this one, the green and blue. Number 48 machine. The Audi is flying. He had that spin at the first corner along the way. That's Lucas Auer getting totally out of shape on the exit to Parabolica. And you got Mike Rockenfeller trying to get around the outside of Maximilian Goetz here. Cuts to the outside and cut back to the inside here. And Ecky's coming under fire from Matara. Matara is absolutely flying. He's gained 3 places in just over a lap.
You can see the DRS wings down. Molina under investigation, forcing another driver to leave the track, but staying with this battle here. And Mike Rockenfeller, well, we go on board. Some fantastic shots, some fantastic race action coming as well. This is brilliant stuff, isn't it? And Matthias Ekstrom, all of a sudden, going backwards.
He is, yeah, he's going to lose another one here. Let Molina just drives past him. And has he got a problem with the car? Just lost all his rhythm, potentially, but we won the World Rallycross event here at the start of the day. This weekend in terms of DTM has not been a good one, has it, for Ecky? The most winning driver in the field, of course, with 21. More bodywork and bits of cars flying off there. Max Goetz losing a bit.
I actually wonder whether there was more bodywork that came off the Matthias Ekstrom car than Maximilian Goetz, and whether that's affecting his car more.
Oh, that was the moment Goetz went airborne, all 4 wheels off the ground as he went right over the curbs.
You could almost sense just how cross he was about that, couldn't you?
We were saying yesterday, Hankook saying how brutal these curbs are in a couple of places on the circuit. The tyres take a real heavy hit, and the technicians and all of the teams are assigned their own technicians, aren't they, by Hankook? Really have to look into this.
Now, Goetz was really, really committed to this, wasn't he? So too was Rocky, yes, you're quite right. So, yes, having seen those replays now, I wonder whether there was more damage to the Matthias Ekstrom car than there was to the Maximilian Goetz car. OK, so Farfus then has got past Martin. And next in his target sights will, of course, be the Euronics Mercedes-Benz of Gary Paffett, which is running in P2. Here it is, Chris.
Yeah, this is how it happens. Fairly standard move. Under braking DRS will have been used there, of course, as well. They get 57 uses of DRS. 3 per lap you can have as a maximum. But even if you only use it once or twice during the course of a lap, you still lose 3 of your activations. So as long as those digital displays in the rear corners of the cars are lit green, they give you the position of the cars, then you know they've still got some DRS activations left. If anybody later in the race it goes red, that tells us they've run out of DRS.
So their DRSs have gone. Yep. So there is Mike Rockenfeller, who at one point was right on the back of Maximilian Goetz, but Goetz seems to have given himself a bit of breathing space now, and Eduardo Mortara behind him. There's our race leader, Paul di Resta. There is P2, Gary Paffett. P3 now is Augusto Farfus with Maxime Martin, Timo Glock, Robert Wickens, and then we see the Ice Watch BMW in that mix as well, that being the car of Tom Blomqvist.
Yeah, Blomqvist looking pretty good, isn't he? And Marco Wittmann has made decent progress from 9th on the grid. Muller in the points again. Be pretty pleased if he can get a podium and points today as a start to his 2016 campaign. But there is Tom Blomqvist pushing on in his second season now of the championship, having already impressed on a number of occasions last year, already a winner at Oschersleben.
Yes.
And looking good here. We didn't really get a chance to see him yesterday because he was somebody else that got spun around fairly early in the race coming out of the last corner. But clearly he's got good pace.
So the race order on the left-hand side of your screen, along with the little badge that identifies which manufacturer. And if you look very carefully, you'll see the best of the Audis, P10 and P11 at the moment.
Yep, Timo Scheider just outside the points at the moment. Look at this squabble that's going on there. Molyneux's got ahead of Mortara. Gott's going backwards. Rocky going totally backwards there in the green and yellow Phoenix Audi. And then he's got queuing up behind him Lucas Auer in the first of the pink Muka Motorsport cars.
So on board with Mike Rockefeller. And Paul di Resta increasing by a couple of tenths his margin over Gary Paffett.
Gott's going backwards now. It's his turn to drop down the order, isn't it? They're so tightly compacted that if you have a scruffy corner, it seems that you're going to lose another place the corner after before you get your rhythm back, because you go out wide, you get on the dirty stuff, and it takes a couple of corners for the tyres to come back to you. This is Lucas Auer having a lunge at the inside now, isn't it? And successfully through on Max Gotts. There's a lot of sparks coming from the front right corner of Max Gotts' car, isn't there? That's dragging. That is really dragging. Look at that. Has he got a problem with the tyre, Max Gotts? Is it slowly deflating?
That is Antonio Felix da Costa, I think.
You're right. You're right. Puncture. You're right. Sorry, da Costa.
Understood. They were both absolutely side by side, weren't they? And it wasn't until I really stared at the screen that I saw the sparks coming off the car of Antonio Felix da Costa.
Front right puncture. He's not really slowing down much, though, is he? He's not nursing it back to the pits. Oh dear. Perhaps he should have.
Really gave up now. No front right anymore. Box.
Well, what we have had in all of that is Matthias Ekström with damage to the sort of right-hand side front as we look at that car, which I'm sure has compromised his pace, and just looks like he's struggling a bit with that car, doesn't he, in terms of the aero deficiency that he has now.
Massive understeer.
Open. If God speeds, stay on track. If God stay on track, please speed.
So the team telling Mike Rockefeller to do the opposite of Maximilian Gotts then.
Timo Glock and Maxime Martin. It's P4 and P5 for those two BMWs. And there is the Antonio Felix da Costa car. And his race done and dusted.
Yeah. At the front of the field, 2.4 seconds. The gap has kind of been similar, 2.2, sometimes 2.3, 2.4 seconds at the moment. That lap round, di Resta was, well, what was he, 21 thousandths of a second quicker than Gary Paffett. So they're very similar here. And this shows, Dave, how important the team aspect is going to be in the pit stops here, because if you can gain half a second on your rivals in the pit stops, that can make a massive difference, because half a second at this rate could take 5 or 6 laps to close that sort of gap down on the track, couldn't it?
Yes, you're right. Okay, in Maxime Martin and Timo Glock. Two BMWs together there. Is that Martin Tomczyk at the back of the pit lane as well? So the teams go to work.
Incredible, isn't it? Rocky's coming in, so Max Gotts must have stayed out. And Tomczyk coming out as well. 3.2 seconds. We see regularly under 3 seconds, don't we, with these tyre changes. They have to change tyres. So they're carrying on. Into the pits we go. Rocky on his way in.
These engineers working so hard, and 3.1. Well, we have seen sub 3 seconds as you've rightly said, Chris. Rocky on his way back out again.
Push, push.
And being motivated. Push, push. Come on, Mike Rockenfeller.
Fighting for position now.
Paffett, Farfus. See Wickens.
Quali lap.
So,
I know.
Kimmy-esque that, isn't it? I know.
I know what I'm doing. Leave me alone. 20 laps, they reckon. Right, push hard. Well, he will, won't he? These drivers do. Everything. Every corner, every tenth of a second, they're fighting. Even at the end of the race yesterday, we saw that with Jamie Green and Augusto Farfus.
Over P14,
Over 14th place, yeah. Never going to get in the points, but they still wouldn't give up. Over the line goes the race leader, and here comes Gary Paffett.
Also coming in, Robert Wickens.
And Tom Blomqvist.
There's a Deutsche Post runner running down the pit lane, just in case we've got a penalty coming. Right, come on, we need a good stop here for Gary Paffett.
Whitman's in as well, isn't he, just behind them?
3.3 is not the best we've seen, but it's not too shabby either. Who am I to grizzle about the odd 10th here and there? Come on! Oh, that was going to be close, but Robert Wickens just managing to stay ahead. Paffett feeds back out.
Tara onto the case of Timo Scheider now, potentially on his way towards a points finish here. Going to replay just how tight that was.
Certainly didn't see that.
No.
Was there a touch?
Nearly, I don't think quite.
Oh! Some
Tara with damage?
Well, I don't know whether that's damage. It just looks like the door has become dislodged, doesn't it?
It's the quarter-light window, isn't it? It's the window of the car which has become dislodged. That's not going to help the aerodynamics any, is it?
Isn't. Paul di Resta, is he coming in this time? Yes, he is. So in now comes Paul di Resta.
3.3 seconds to beat then. That's what the stop time was for Gary Paffett.
Well, the HWA team standing by to receive the race leader Paul di Resta then. They rehearse and they practice these pit stops we put in graphics on the right-hand side of the screen where Gary Paffett is relative to where Paul di Resta is. And I think there was a bit of a problem with one of the di Resta tyres. Yes, there was. This could really play into the hands of Gary Paffett.
3.4 seconds slower than Gary Paffett's stop, and he was only, what, 2.5 seconds in front of him.
This should mean...
Watch the traffic, watch the traffic.
There's Paffett.
Gary coming.
Paffett has got the pace, and of course has got the momentum, but...
Got a car in his way as well, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
Much closer.
Behind, he has stopped already.
He could do with that Molina being in his way, couldn't he?
I think that's what compromised that, wasn't it?
Yeah. Just as he was about to lunge one, and he's still stuck behind Molina. He's going to be screaming, isn't he?
Yeah.
Gary Paffett in the helmet. That was a chance. But still, definitely much closer than he was before the stops, isn't he?
Up to the hairpin then, DRS assisting then. He's got the inside line here if he can make this work. He will get past Molina. Only he'd been able to do that earlier. So half a team radio for Molina. So it's as we were then with Paul di Resta ahead of Gary Paffett. Really did think that Paffett would be able to beat him in the pit stop. Now it was this front left hand as we look at it that was just shabby coming off, wasn't it?
And it's not 2-3 seconds is nothing, is it? But in our world, but in their world, it's an eternity. And you know, in fairness to Miguel Molina, he's actually fighting for track position with Gary Paffett. Right. They are third and fourth. I know that Paffett's been in the pits, but Molina's hardly going to wave him through, is he? No. So just a little bit of bad luck there for Gary Paffett. Not sure he'd have had a clear-cut chance to get di Resta, but he certainly would have been right behind him, wouldn't he?
Nico Muller in now, and Gary Paffett incidentally under investigation for a potential unsafe release there.
Quite catch that.
No, something to do with the tyres, wasn't it, from Paul di Resta?
So, Nico Muller in. This looks smooth and calm, doesn't it? 3.3 seconds.
So where's he relative to...
Okay. Keep pushing. Gary behind under investigation. Unsafe release for Gary behind.
So di Resta just being urged to...
I have the instructions not to kill my tires. It's just like the car to stay in front.
So he's saying he's got instructions not to kill his tyres. He's trying to look after his tyres on one hand. On the other hand, they're saying you've got to push quite hard because Gary Paffett's right behind you. But then they're also telling him he's under investigation, so he doesn't know whether to push hard or not at the moment, is what he's pointing at, I think. Ooh, look at this, more tight moves down into the hairpin. There's a big gaggle in that that almost midfield pack, isn't it? Just on the fringe of the top 10 once they've all had their pit stops. But they're our top two. Molina is third, but hasn't been into the pits yet. At the Audi, looks like he's going to do a long first stint here, doesn't it, Miguel Molina?
Oh, okay. Drive-through penalty for Gary Paffett.
So if your tyres a little bit,
well,
your tyres a little bit, Gary behind, we got the.
It's all right for Paul di Resta, isn't it? He's going to be able to ease up now. Ease up, of course not, but he's not going to be pressured by Gary Paffett, who's now got a drive-through penalty for an unsafe release.
And Gary just goes when he's told to go, doesn't he? So
it's a tough call.
He has to take the penalty, but it's not necessarily aimed at him. So, oh dear. But you know, you can understand why it happens, because the team just want to get him in and out. They know that half a second make a difference. Are you really going to hang fire for 3 or 4 seconds to let another car into the pits? But it was very tight, wasn't it? The officials, anyway, have made their decision. That is their prerogative, and Gary Paffett on the wrong end of it, I'm afraid. That's going to drop him way down the order.
Manage your pace, Gary behind, we get the drive.
So effectively, second in the race is going to be Farfus, isn't it, once Molina goes into the pits and Paffett has his penalty. And Farfus is 5.1 seconds behind di Resta, so di Resta can now afford to look after his tyres.
Yes. So Gary then will have to take that drive-through penalty within 3 laps of it having been notified. And that will really compromise what has been a very good showing from the Suffolk-based driver. And Ekstrom is out and retired.
It was not handling well at all, was it? It was really fighting the wheel and understeering. So, yeah, I pulled that one in, standing in about 19th place anyway, wasn't he?
Well, of course, Paul di Resta will have, and as we've heard, has been told that Gary's got a drive-through penalty, so he's not got to worry too much about the threat of Gary Paffett behind him. As the gap is coming down, but of course Gary got served that drive-through penalty, and as you've rightly said, that will allow Paul to perhaps more so manage the tyres at the front.
Gets to 3 laps with him, which he's got to come in, isn't there? So he doesn't have to come straight in, will have to come in soon. So those that have not yet pitted are Molina in 3rd place, Timo Scheider, who's currently in 8th place, and Christian Vitoris, who's currently in 12th place. Everybody else is pitted. And one of the Muka cars coming in to the pits, I can see in front of the commentary box as well to make its stop. I think possibly they've already done their stop, so keep an eye on that, but they're struggling a little bit in terms of position anyway.
So back on the power for Paul di Resta. Gary Paffett getting ever closer, a bit of a futile gap reducing exercise for poor Gary, although the further up he can be in terms of time, the better it's going to be when he comes out after that drive-through penalty. But inevitably his race totally compromised by that unsafe release. And as you've pointed out, really that's a team thing, isn't it? It's not the driver, but the teams have chosen when to let him go, and as you say, they don't want to lose 2, maybe 3 seconds allowing another car to come past. Of course they want to get their driver out as quickly as they can.
You've got a split second to make that decision, haven't you, in the heat of the moment.
Very difficult call, isn't it?
Gary's making a point though, isn't he, by closing the gap to Paul di Resta.
Very much so.
It was Vitoris that came in, not Auer, so that's him making his stop now. So it's just Timo Scheider and Miguel Molina.
Okay, Paffett in for his drive-through now. And Paul di Resta being told to manage his pace. Clear track now.
There wasn't any contact, but it was mighty close, wasn't it?
It was, jolly close. Okay, so where has that factored Gary back out again? P11?
Yeah.
So behind Nico Muller. So, well, the best that Gary can hope for is some meaningful points, isn't it? We've got Just under half an hour left to race. Good pace. He's already proven and shown that, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's quick enough, certainly, to make up some ground here. But he had the win on his mind, didn't he? Absolutely, at minimum, a podium finish. So Molyneux, for the time being, will move up to second place, but has yet to make a pit stop. Farfus, once the pit stops are all done, will move up to second. Maxime Martin will move up to third. Timo Glock will move up to fourth place. Yep. Robert Wickens going well again, isn't he? He's picking up a good haul of points this weekend. Second place yesterday. In the top 5 he'll be, I think, once the order sorts itself out.
So there is Maxime Martin and Timo Glock. Red light in the rear quarter indicating the pit stop has been done. So Glock running in P5, Maxime Martin ahead. And Glock has Robert Wickens behind. There is Maxime Martin. Those two BMWs then running together as they cross the timing line now. Robert Wickens there in P6. Closing in on the pair of BMWs ahead.
Timo Glock is another one that has had good pace this weekend, but we never got a chance to see what he could do yesterday because he was sent unceremoniously off into the gravel trap. But look at him go here, swings out wide, and through he goes. Gains a place on Maxime Martin. Good on the brakes, that, wasn't it? But perhaps feeling the need to get on with it because, as you say, Robert Wickens was certainly closing the gap to them, wasn't he? But if it stays like this, Paul de Resta's going to wind up as the points leader. Verena, you've got Matthias Ekstrom with you. I'm afraid a bad day for him today.
A very bad day for Eki. Eki, you were trying so hard to maintain on the racetrack, obviously, but we could see you were struggling. How many hits do you think did your car get? I mean, it really got some bashing, didn't it?
No, I really were quite happy. First laps, the aim was just to save the car because I know in the back it's pretty wild. But then was one of the Mercedes guys. He had a different idea, and then I got squeezed out over the sausage. And then the first part came, and then we were racing in the last sector. Then the part broke on my car, and after this it was 3 seconds per lap, so 2 maybe slower, so it was undrivable.
Thank you very much, Eki. Back to you guys.
Well done for getting hold of Matthias Ekstrom. Of course, it was he and Maximilian Goertz that were together, wasn't it?
And Martin Tomczyk has gained a place on Marco Wittmann, and we're going to get a replay of how the move transpired here. DRS in action, you can see the rear wing, the angle adjusting, so less drag, therefore effectively more horsepower, more speed in a straight line, and he whipped past and then made sure he stopped the car under braking, carrying more speed in than normal, of course, and that was a well executed move.
Yes. So Augusto Farfus then goes through on our picture with Molyneux behind, and Martin now, of course, with the benefit of DRS.
Yep.
Fighting back with Timo Glock, and that for P4 and P5 positions. And Robert Wickens, for now, from P6, doesn't seem to be closing that gap perhaps as rapidly as he was.
Yeah, it's nip and tuck, isn't it? He at times closes, at others he's on a similar lap pace, but if those two start fighting each other, they know that Robert Wickens will be there. So Maxime Martin has got to be careful. The BMWs don't want to trip up each other and allow Mercedes to get ahead of one of them or both of them, so they'll have to be a little bit careful. If there is an art to passing a car without losing too much time, isn't there? So that's what we're going to try and do here if that happens.
Scheider out.
Scheider's out, yeah. After running on the fringes of the points here, really bitterly frustrating start to the season for Timo, I'm afraid, the former double champion. There's Farfus Molyneux. He's staying out for a very long time, isn't he? He's the only one not to be in the pits yet. But his pace is still good, Dave, on those tyres. He's within a couple of tenths of Farfus ahead of him.
Maxime Martin then in P5. This the Parabolica as they head up to the hairpin, of course, with the DRS. Additional, less drag, additional horsepower effectively to Timo Glock. able to defend. Of course, two from the same brands. In the meantime, Nico Müller and attack there from Marco Wittmann. And there is Gary Paffett making his way back up the order. Look at that, 3 abreast they go. And Nico Müller, for staying at the back of that, actually benefited, didn't he, really?
He did, yeah. That's a case in point of getting past somebody, but then carrying too much speed into a corner and just giving it all away on the exit as well. Gary Paffett almost went past both of them. Well, I'm afraid we can find out what happened to Timo Scheider now. We've seen in the garage, he's out of the race. What's the story, Verena?
Yeah, let's find out. Timo, what exactly happened to you?
Well, I had a pretty good start, so I moved from 22 to 13 quite quickly, so it took a bit aggressivity, but in the end there have been some contacts in between some cars, so I don't know exactly who I touched and where I touched, but in the end the car on the suspension side got broken or bended, and it just made no sense to carry on, and yeah, we had to quit and to stop the race.
So I guess a weekend to forget.
Yes, unfortunately, it's two really bad races and really bad start of the season, so quite frustrating, but yeah, that's like it is.
Thank you very much. So I guess looking forward to Spieltag then, and back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Verena. So we're back to this battle between Timo Glock and Maxime Martin then. Battle for P4 and P5. There's Augusto Farfus going through, Molina, and then we're back to this Glock and Maxime Martin tussle that continues.
Quickest man on the track at the moment is Paul, the rest of the race leader. That won't surprise you. Second quickest man on the track at the moment, a bit further back, is Daniel Huncadeo in 13th place. 1 minute 36.1 last time around. And also quick, third quickest last time around, Tom Blomqvist in 7th place. So maybe some more movement to come in this final 20 minutes or so of the race.
Well, here is in replay Gary Paffett on Nico Müller. Perfect execution there at the hairpin. Müller running out just a little bit wide, and well, that doubtless assisted by the pressure from Gary Paffett as he tries to make his way back up the order and just bank whatever he can. That's Molina, isn't it?
Molina out, yeah, from 3rd place in the race.
I'm in the pit lane entry, sorry. Hockenheim.
So almost back in the pits. He was due to make a stop, wasn't he? He was the last one to come in.
Copy.
Saw Hans-Jürgen Abt on the...
He's facing the wrong way.
Yeah, he's spun, hasn't he?
It looks like it, doesn't it? Last dash call to come in, and as he cut across the strip, back into the car, no grip. It's all dusty there, isn't it? Oh dear. Apologies for the language you might have heard from the onboard there, from the team radio rather. You can understand his frustration.
Now, here's a point. With Rallycross having been here across the course of this DTM weekend, of course, that's part of their circuit is right next door to the pit lane, isn't it? And I just wonder, you made the point, that's very, very dusty there, lack of grip.
Yeah, and he was cutting across on the track.
He was late
to the pit lane, which you see a lot, don't you? But he was carrying a fair bit of speed as well, and their strategy has backfired on them, I'm afraid.
And of course, because he's been out there for so long, his tyres are more worn than anyone's, aren't they?
Fair point, yeah, absolutely. So that puts pay of any points, I'm afraid, from Miguel Molina. Paul the rest now has, look at that, nearly a 9-second lead over Augusto Farfus.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And he's flying. That last time through, he was 6/10 quicker than Farfus in 2nd place. He struggled a bit there. What about Glock? Glock is 4/10 quicker than Farfus, and not that far behind him.
Okay.
In fact, if you look at the times, Dave, everybody behind Farfus is catching the one ahead. So Martin is quicker than Glock. Wickens quicker than both of them. And Blomqvist quicker than everybody in front of him except for De Resta.
Right.
In fact, on that lap, he was quicker than De Resta. So Tom Blomqvist, one to keep an eye on here in
1:36.392, you're right.
And Wickens. And Wickens had a good lap as well, didn't he, there? 1:36.0.
So Glock, Martin then, P3, P4. Robert Wickens just inching, and it is inching closer.
14 laps to go.
So Glock being advised of race duration, 14 laps to go for the BMW driver. Robert Wickens really throwing that car, trying to get onto the back of Maxime Martin, who's running in P4. There's Glock then, who at the moment is on the final step on the podium.
It's Moliner, isn't it? Walking back, yeah.
How much short of DRS has he left?
Exploring the limits, aren't they, Dave?
Super slow-mo there of Glock, Martin and Robert Wickens. And
should be 5 laps left, 5 laps left for him.
Glock wants to know exactly what's going on now, doesn't he? A number of laps left. Got just the one podium finish last year.
0.9. Let's try and get him out of our DRS.
Yeah, Glock getting just the one podium last year, but it was a win at Oschersleben. But we'll be pleased about this. That's the point, isn't it? Trying to increase the gap enough, Dave, so that the driver behind cannot activate their DRS, because you have to be within a second of the car in front.
Yeah. So Timo Glock and Maxime Martin. Here comes Augusto Farfus out on his own, isn't he, at P2 with remarkably Paul di Resta some 9.3 seconds up the road. And Gary Paffett, sterling effort up to P7. Ahead of him is Tom Blomqvist. Behind Gary Paffett running in P8 is Martin Tomczyk. Then we see Nico Müller and Marco Wittmann rounding out the top 10 at the moment. So Gary Paffett then P7, having served his drive-through penalty for an unsafe release during the pit stops.
Any sort of charge from the Audis coming forward hasn't really happened in this race, has it? I suppose one of the drivers most likely to have done that would have been Jamie Green, who was off on the first lap, I'm afraid, into the gravel trap. Mortara, the other one, looked like he was going well pre-pit stops. He was taking lots of positions because he was delayed as he too was spun around.
4 laps left for him, DRS, and you have still 6 in the pocket.
Only 14th position at the moment for Mortara. So, for the first time, now there are limitations on DRS, drivers are asking teams not just how many they've got left, but how many their rivals have got left.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's something they're bearing in mind, isn't it?
Down there with the calculator, aren't they, on the pit wall now? So Martin Tomczyk and Gary Paffett, and this in replay. And Gary will be on a mission now, won't he?
Last of the late breakers there. Expected him to run wide on the corner. He carried so much speed. He came from 2 lengths back, but that was a beautiful move from Gary Paffett. So that puts him up to 7th place. His next target is Tom Blomqvist, who is exactly 2 seconds up the road.
Hugely experienced Gary Paffett then knows this Hockenheim circuit supremely well, and you're absolutely right. Next in the target sights will be Tom Blomqvist. So Paffett then currently P7. Not his expectations for this race, of that you can be sure.
Timo Glock's just had a very good lap, 136.1, so it's almost that magic number clear now of Maxime Martin. He's 9/10 of a second clear, so almost out of the DRS striking zone.
Gap to Glock, 0.9.
There you go. Well, he's going to have to use the DRS on this lap, isn't he? Else he's going to lose touch with Glock Maxime Martin. So you have to use it 3 times on this lap to try and close that gap. Tomczyk's having another good run as well, isn't he, today? His pace in qualifying and practice has not been mega, has it? But in the races, he's absolutely been flying this weekend.
comes the live gap then. Paffett trying to reel in that Ice Watch BMW of Tom Blomqvist ahead of him to try and bank some more points and move up a further position from P7 to P6. There's Nico Muller running in P9, was on the podium, of course, yesterday. Started yesterday's race from pole position. With a just under 10-second gap to Augusto Farfus.
Daniel Hockenheim is still the quickest man on the track at the moment.
Really?
So, yeah, he's down in 12th place, but he's really closing in on Mike Rockefeller in 11th, but then there's a gap to Whitman in 10th, so still, despite all of this, it's going to be an effort for him to pick up any points here. Second fastest man on the track, though, second fastest men on the track are these two. Because you've got Gary Paffett, 136.2, 3/10 quicker than the race leader. Tomczyk having the benefit of the DRS to try and close up to him as well.
But all he can do is close up. He can't seem to get close enough to really have a go. And that's, you know, Gary really, well, I think the Mercedes has got the pace, hasn't it? It's beginning to claw in the BMW of Tom Blomqvist, and he's definitely got that in his sights, hasn't he? What have we got left? Just under 12 minutes of the race still to come. So Blomqvist is a possibility, for sure. And there you can see him getting ever closer.
Oops.
Well, that'll be Lucas Auer then. Across the gravel, across the grass as well.
So a few of those this weekend, hasn't he? Glock's starting to reel in Augusto Farfus, isn't he, in second place? Bit by bit, gaps 1.8 seconds now between the two of them.
Closer and closer and closer gets Gary Paffett to Tom Blomqvist, though. There, the DRS rear wing you can see being lowered, and we're on board with Tom Blomqvist. And then to the outside goes Gary Paffett. It's where Tomczyk could potentially take a slight advantage, but he wasn't close enough to be able to do so, whether he could have cut back on the inside. So Gary absolutely hounding Tom Blomqvist's BMW now. Dives to the outside, will try and dive to the in now and have better momentum. So they do go side by side, Paffett. Oh. Well, so much confidence in that car, hasn't he? That was a brilliant overtake.
He's got that mindset as well of charging forward, hasn't he, after the penalty that he suffered. And that's playing its part. He's just interested in one thing: it's going forward and getting past people as quickly as he can here.
What will be an interesting prospect now, with 10 minutes of the race left to run, is the next car ahead of him is Robert Wickens, driving a Mercedes.
Who was not the cause, but that was the unsafe release, wasn't it, when Wickens came in? It's not Robert's fault, but there's a sort of tie-in in the story there, isn't it? That was a lovely move, wasn't it? Right on the outside.
Brilliant overtake. Now, of course, Robert Wickens banged more points than Gary yesterday, so therefore...
Oh.
That's a Mercedes.
Into the gravel trap, and... look at Dea. Who was going so well.
Was really, really quick.
Now, slow zone in zone 3.
And that's where the slow zones have been all weekend, isn't it?
Actually, yeah.
The two previous slow zone periods that we've had have been zone 3 and the Daniel Juncker car in the gravel.
So that's from turn 10 through to 11, through to 12 at Satskurv, which means the cars have to become limited to 80 kilometres an hour, cannot overtake one another, and we might get a shot of the cars coming through the slow zone. It almost looks like they've stopped, doesn't it, Dave? They go so slowly, but it's activated with the button on the steering wheel, and there you go. Look, looks like the car is crawling, has a problem.
There's no way it looks like that speed, does it?
No, 80 kilometres an hour, still reasonably rapid, isn't it, for most of us? But yeah, so they're all, in theory, the gap should stay the same between drivers, and they press the button, they activate it, and then once they get out of the zone, they can go back up to normal speed. The whole point of this is to keep the race flowing, isn't it, rather than bringing out safety cars. And
yes.
It's certainly going to be to the benefit of having a rule like this for somebody like Paul Di Resta, who's nearly 11 seconds clear. If a safety car came out, would bunch everybody up a bit back behind it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So. Still got an eye on Glock here. I still fancy second place here, doesn't he, in this race? He's pushing hard. What's the gap now between the two of them? They go through, and it's not much. It's just over a second, so it is coming down all the time.
7.5 minutes remain. There's Gary Pavitt then, who has left Tom Blomqvist in his wake, and now sets off after Robert Wickens. Nico Muller then and Martin Tomczyk. So the slow zone has been removed, and we go back to full green.
This is a battle for fourth place. Martin with close company now. Robert Wickens has finally caught him up.
I wonder if Robert has just been extra motivated knowing that the hard-charging Pavitt is on his way.
What's that blue thing coming towards me in the mirror?
Yes.
I might get on with this.
Yes.
Get out of his way, I think. Yeah, we could be in for a few treats in the last 5 minutes of this race.
I think so, because you're right. And this completely called by you, as Glock is getting closer to Farfus, isn't he? And that's going to be another inter-manufacturer tussle, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed so. Mercedes are leading at the moment, but BMW are going to pick up good points here if it stays like this, second, third and fourth. So they won't want these two to get too close to one another. But Timo wants the position. Look at that, Dave. We thought it was busy, didn't we? 78,500 spectators.
Yes.
Fantastic. Lots of them with suntans this weekend, we noticed, didn't we? Especially yesterday. It was really hot yesterday.
May I just mention the gap, Di Resta to Farfus, 12.5 seconds.
If you can, stay in front this lap. If you can, stay in front this lap.
Wants to stay in front of all laps, doesn't he?
Well, look at that, from one mirror to the next, Augusto Farfus, because of this fantastic onboard shot that we can bring you. He's not going to, is he?
No. T-Bone's coming through. DRS deployed. And ahead. So up to second place for Timo Glock. Farfus down to third position. Martin still a couple of seconds back and forth.
If you can, maintain the gap. And let's get the DRS next lap.
Yeah, it's not over yet, is it?
No.
DRS now in favour of the Brazilian next time around. There's not much you could do about that, was there? Once the DRS was deployed, no point really over-defending that. Try and get him back on the next lap. Oh dear.
Well, we said it was a speeding blue bullet, didn't we? Coming through the pack. My goodness.
Oh, he's going for it first time here.
Around the bank section there.
Fabulous.
Oh, this is great driving, isn't it? I mean, clearly.
Slightly fired up Gary Pavitt, I think.
Yes, he's
so you
clearly.
should get the DRS to Timo or check the gap.
Now, just flashed up on the screen that it was Christian Vittoris.
You're doing well. Augusto is close to drop out of the DRS window. He's very close. Doing well. Push.
So, Christian Vittoris getting a drive-through penalty for an infringement of the slow zone.
Wickens got a bit out of shape on the curves, didn't he?
But even then, I mean, Gary had just, the gap had reduced to nothing, hadn't it?
It was like a hunter that sensed a weakness in its prey, though, then, wasn't it? Gary just bang through. First chance he got.
Well, I have to say that with that drive-through penalty, if you'd have said, oh, he could finish P5, I thought he'd be able to get back into the points, but P5, what have we got left?
What about
no, I don't, surely not. Well, certainly got the pace, hasn't he? And he's got the bit between his teeth.
Yeah, he's pulled off some cracking moves, hasn't he?
It's just, you know, leaving Robert in his wake, isn't he? Absolutely incredible pace he's got.
See why he's won 20 races. And
Yeah.
only champion once, but don't forget he was the runner-up 4 times in the championship. He's been mighty close to winning it more than once, hasn't he?
Do you know what? You could be on for this. Martin Tomczyk.
Tyre struggling a bit maybe now.
Yeah,
in the race.
perhaps.
So that's a shame after a good run. He's going to lose a couple of places as a result of that. Marco Wittmann gets past him as well. So go from 8th down to 10th, still hanging on to the last championship point for this race. Gary Paffett was 0.6 quicker than Maxime Martin on the last lap. That was with an overtake as well, Dave.
Well, there it is in replay through the gravel. He kept the speed on, didn't he? You know, he got through there as quick as he could, back out onto the grass, and well, I was going to say Paul di Resta is virtually at Frankfurt now because he is 13 seconds ahead last time around. 13 seconds ahead is remarkable. And it's not often you see that domination, is it, in DTM? It's normally much, much closer at the front than that.
Yeah, would have had a hard fight on his hands had that penalty not come to Gary Paffett, though, wouldn't he?
I think you're right.
Different story it would have been. Certainly would have won like he had.
So Robert Wickens and Tom Blomqvist there. We're on board with Tom Blomqvist, the BMW driver. We have 1 3/4 minutes left in the race. So staying on board with Tom then around this banked section of the circuit before they head to the final 2 turns, which brings us back out onto the start-finish straight here.
The rest across the line with 1 minute and 31 left on the clock, lapping 1:36s. So this will be the last lap before the time runs out, and then plus 1 lap at the end, won't it?
Yes.
So 2 laps to go.
So for me, the question is, can Paffett get onto Martin?
Seconds gap to Augusto.
The difference between them.
Gary Paffett's just taken another half a second out of Maxime Martin for 4th place. Half a second. So 1.1 seconds he's taken out of him in 2 laps. He's 1.1 seconds behind him. He's got 2 laps to go. So the last lap might be quite interesting, I think, for 4th place.
So on Robert Wickens then, here comes Tom Blomqvist. Now, this is a lesson in how to make Mercedes as wide as possible, I think. To be fair, didn't have to deploy too much defence there, really, did he? Tom once again right on him now. So to the outside. And, well.
Elbows out there, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a bit, wasn't it?
Christian Vittoris has been through earlier to serve his drive-through. The other Muka car has just come in and is headed for the garage, I'm afraid. Lucas Howe looks like he's a late retirement.
Right.
Right, there is a chance on this lap that Gary Paffett's going to be within a second of Martin, so then he'll have the benefit of some chances to use his DRS. Here he is.
And it's the last lap.
Not that far behind Farfus either, aren't they?
Right. Let's check this out. We know Paul di Resta is 13 seconds up the road. Oh, Martin runs wide. That's not going to help him, is it?
No, he's 0.7 of a second behind at the line as well, so he can use his DRS 3 times now, Gary Paffett.
Well, there is the Mercedes driver, Gary Paffett, then hounding Maxime Martin. DRS deployed.
A few more laps and a podium would have been back on the cards, wouldn't it?
Wow, extraordinary driving. Absolutely extraordinary.
Right, it's with him now, isn't he?
Yeah.
And they're both catching Farfus hand over fist here. Both got the DRS, of course, which Farfus hasn't.
Yes. So, of course, Martin was able to mitigate the additional DRS benefit that Gary Paffett would have had because he was able to use it with Farfus ahead. So,
is Martin's display red now? Possibly. Have a look when it comes back around, but maybe he's used his up. I think it is. So he's used his DRSs up.
Well, in the meantime, it's been a faultless drive, hasn't it, from this man, Paul di Resta, who has just one turn left to do before he takes victory at Hockenheim in DTM. Race 2.
So from now on, you don't have to come for all the races. Well done.
Paul di Resta wins. So we stay with this. I mean, we've got to wait a little while, haven't we? Because he's so far ahead. But
no, there's no change.
No.
Close. Very close. Ooh.
I still think that was a fantastic drive from the Brit, wasn't it? Following a drive-through penalty to finish P5.
Half a second behind fourth. 1 second behind a podium in the end for Gary Paffett. Yeah, the team's saying to Paul di Resta on the radio, bring your son to every race now. He just had his first child, a son, in January, and he's obviously here. And it's obviously brought him some good luck, hasn't it?
Yes.
First win since the comeback. And seventh win for Paul di Resta in DTM. And I reckon that's going to put him in the championship lead on the points as well, with the first and the fourth. And Wickens will be up there as well, won't he, with the second and the sixth.
So with Verena now will be a very happy Jens Marquardt from BMW.
A very happy man indeed. Congratulations, fantastic race, especially of Timo Glock, who managed second place, but we've got BMW in second, third and fourth place. So especially after yesterday, I bet you're very happy today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was definitely much better than yesterday. And also after the adjustment from qualifying, I think that was a good race today. Fantastic job by Paul di Resta. He went off and that was it. And yeah, behind there was not as much trouble as yesterday in the first few laps, so I think that was okay. And of all the 6 cars running from BMW, all 6 are in the points. That is, I think, a good result. Still a bit of pace that we need to find, but we're definitely really happy with the podium on the second race this year, and there's a super crowd here, so yeah, can be happy.
Glad to hear that. Thank you very much, and back to you guys.
Thanks, Verena. So getting hold of Jens Marquardt very quickly, and there a replay of Paul di Resta then taking that checkered flag. That's a super slow-mo of the checkered flag. And, well, you've said all along, if I may say, Chris, how you think that livery really works with that Mercedes.
Yeah. That looks great, doesn't it?
The car works, doesn't it? That's for sure.
I think it sounds like Paul likes it as well, doesn't he? He's said
Yeah.
a couple of times this weekend now. Looks fantastic. And yeah, they have really hit the ground running this weekend, haven't they, Mercedes? And we were, as you said, dubious about whether it would be. I think they were as well, after what Gary Paffett said was a really hard winter, tough winter to try and get the new body fitted with the standard parts that they've had. And, well, I'm sure there have been many, many, many late nights with the team in the whole build-up to this weekend. Notwithstanding what they do at the weekend itself, of course.
Well, Paul himself said, didn't he? You know, the team had to work very, very hard late into the night to get that car.
But it's non-stop in between races and in the build-up to the races as well, isn't it? And that's really rewarding all of their efforts there to get them up there. And we got Audi, BMW and DTM as a whole winners, Mercedes up there because everybody's close together.
Yeah.
It's very, very evenly matched once again, isn't it?
So there is the Paul di Resta car, the Timo Glock car, and Augusto Farfus. So Paul di Resta makes his way out of his Mercedes. He's pretty happy with that, isn't he?
Quite right. Because he had his troubles in the pits as well, didn't he? Where they had that front right sticking.
It did stick.
That was the only problem. So
well remembered.
That was when Gary Paffett got right on his case, wasn't it? And then he had the penalty.
Timo Glock
drove well. He's broken the door there, Dave.
What it is with Timo and doors. He does have trouble with the doors. And Norbert Haug there, offering his congratulations. Former head, of course, of Mercedes Motorsport, and now with a developing television career.
Good for the home crowd to have German driver on the podium as well, of course.
Well, we always thought it was going to be a big crowd, didn't we, with the prospect of some great race action, and adding to that was fantastic weather, and well, that's exactly what we got. In full then, the result, Paul di Resta taking the win from Timo Glock, Augusto Farfus, Maxime Martin. Then it was Gary Paffett with a remarkable drive up to P5. Robert Wickens, Tom Blomqvist, Nico Müller, Marco Wittmann, Martin Tomczyk, Mike Rockenfeller, Eduardo Mortara completing the first page. And then it was Maximilian Goertz, Adrian Tombe, Christian Vittoris, and then all the cars that sadly didn't make it to the end of the race. It was actually probably as many retirements today as there were yesterday, but it just didn't seem as
no.
littered with damage, did it, Chris?
Apart from the start, no, a few technical issues. So 13 seconds he won by. That's the biggest winning margin, Dave, since Bernd Schneider won by 13.5 seconds in the year 2000. That is, you don't see it very often at all, do you? That sort of margin of victory.
I just knew that Mr. Encyclopedia on my right-hand side would come up with some amazing fact. Well done. Yeah, no, that is a very, very rare margin, isn't it?
Yeah. As we say, could have been much closer had Gary Paffett not had his penalty. But of course, maybe Gary wouldn't have been on him quite so much had Paul not had the problem with the wheel. So swings and roundabouts. But what you've got to say is that Paul drove beautifully, didn't he, all weekend long? Not a wheel wrong, as far as I could see.
No, absolutely. And there he is once again celebrating top the bonnet of that car. Augusto Farfus then is always smiling, but a bit very, very happy today. He's with Verena.
Certainly he's got a reason to smile. Congratulations, a tough race, but a third place, I think you can be very happy about that.
Yeah, we were hanging on the P2 for a long moment, but then I had the rear drop, the tires they gave up, and then I started losing pace. Timo had a fantastic pace start then. So I'm happy. Good to get these points on the bag. After a difficult race yesterday, we go home now with a third place. We can focus now on the next one.
I was just going to say, after a good race like that, you're probably looking forward to Spielberg especially.
Definitely. I mean, last year was not easy for us, but we have a plan. And championship is long, so it's better to get some points and be in the hunt.
All right, well, thank you very much. Enjoy the podium up there, and back to you guys.
Thanks, Verena. Very good point he makes, isn't it? It's better to enjoy and get the points and bank them or have them in your hand at the start of the season.
That's a great shot, look. Kiss on the lips, sort of.
I tell you what, Timo really is worshipping that car today, isn't he? Oh, brilliant images. Well done, everyone.
Yeah, no less than he deserves as well, because he's been really quick all weekend, Timo,
yes,
and I'm very unlucky yesterday. You saw from onto the interviews with Verena there, pretty breezy today, isn't it? Which makes us feel a little bit cooler than yesterday, but they don't get the benefit in the car, so it's still very hard work for them. Track temperature was 45 degrees at the start of the race, wasn't it? Yeah.
Okay, then, Drivers' Championship. And Paul di Resta on 37 points. Robert Wickens on 26 points. So you were absolutely right. That's put Paul di Resta at the top of the chart, hasn't it? Eduardo Mortara relegated to P3 now.
Good weekend for Nico Müller as well.
Yes.
More good points today. 8th place with a heavy car in that second race and his first podium yesterday.
So we're not far away from the podium ceremony here at Hockenheim. Fantastic heli shot then of this Hockenheim circuit nestling in this forest. And there, the assembled throng in the pit lane to applaud the podium. And there is our race winner, Paul di Resta. Timo Glock will be pretty chuffed too. And Augusto Farfus.
Gar nicht. Vorher haben wir natürlich noch unseren Vertreter des Teams Mercedes AMG, Nico Mitreuter. Dieser Applaus.
Team representative and national anthem to play out then.
Und damit hören wir nun zu Ehren des Siegers die britische Nationalhymne. Paul, that's for you. Sportdirektors für Europa aus den Händen von Manfred Sandbichler. Der Pokal für Paul di Resta.
Manfred Sandbichler then making that trophy presentation. Dieter Gummer then, the Lord Mayor of Hockenheim here. All weekend long I've commented on how good the trophies are.
Absolutely.
So the horizontal bar world champion makes the trophy presentation to Timo Glock.
Der Trainer des TSG 1899 Hockenheim mit dem Pokal für den Brasilianer, für Augusto Farfus.
And Julian Nagelsmann then.
So guys, please stand together for the photo. First of all, and after that, we get the champagne.
I think we're in for a good 2016 DTM season.
Yeah. Going to carry on. What, with 13 different winners last year. We've already had 2 different winners from 2 races. It's going to be great. Absolutely great.
Für die Jungs zu Hause einmal Daumen hoch. Und wenn alle Fotografen hier abgedrückt haben, geht's an den Champagner, Leute.
So then the bubbly is sprayed on the podium. He got it, didn't he?
Timo got a face full as well, didn't he, by the looks of things? I don't think he cares, though.
No.
Great to see a big smile on his face.
Excellent. And Paul di Resta then, and Verena is with him. What a race win. Congratulations, Paul di Resta.
A fantastic race for Paul. Paul to victory. Congratulations. I bet it feels especially good, especially since it's the first victory since your comeback in the DTM.
It is the first victory. It's been a long time, but you know, we've had a very strong car all weekend. The boys last night were up to 5:30 repairing the car from a technical issue. I owe it to them. You know, they gave me a car to get out there, but I think I need to dedicate this one to my son. The first one he's come to. It's been a great winter, fully focused. Some people said you'd be slower, but maybe it's the difference.
That's exactly the question I was going to ask. Maybe that's your good luck.
Yeah, the little man's been here. His mum's been looking after him well, and yeah, maybe we need to bring him to the O, because to start like this, if we can continue, it's a dream come true. So onwards and upwards for the next 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations, enjoy it, and back to you guys.
Thanks very much, Verena. Well, good luck charm for Paul di Resta, and congratulations, of course. But nice, isn't it, that he credited the team who were working until 5:30 in the morning to get that car done.
Yeah, we always say the drivers get all the plaudits out on track, but this is hugely a team sport, and without their blood, sweat and tears, all those hours they work, drivers won't be able to get the victories, would they?
Okay, Verena now has managed to catch up with Timo Glock.
A phenomenal race also for Timo. Fantastic. You came from 6th place in qualifying to 2nd place up on the podium. You've got to be happy.
Oh, absolutely. It was a great race. Like, you know, how it was just perfect. I mean, the start was great. I had a good battle with Robert Wickens in the opening lap, which was really fair from him and from my side. We gave us enough room, which hopefully looked great on TV. But the pace was good. I struggled a bit behind Maxime and Auguste at the beginning, so we decided to come in a bit earlier, but Maxime did the same. And then we came out in traffic, which I thought, oh, that's really a downside for us, but I managed to get through very quickly. And then overtook Maxime. I was fighting all the way to get him out of DRS. I was asking all the time, is he still there? Is he still in DRS? And I just was pushing so much, and then I saw that I can catch up to Augusto quite a lot, and you know, then I was asking how much shots he has left to have a strategy for the end. So he had quite a lot left. So you know, I just said, okay, I do one attack and then I need to get out of the way, and it worked perfectly. So just the last 2 laps, I had a bit of a moment because the rear left tire suddenly dropped so much, and I thought, oh, nearly went twice off the track, and I'm just happy to bring it home for my new team, for RMG, for my car crew. I think you know, it was not the best come into a new team to crash the car on the first day at the test here.
it's the present to my boys, that second place, to give it back. And of course for my wife, happy Mother's Day. She's down there, and that's second place for her, so the trophy will be the Mother Day's present.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, you really did do a fantastic job. It can continue like that in Spielberg. So here are the highlights of this race, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Du hast mir vorhin versprochen, dich aus der Carbon Area rauszuhalten. Hast du gut gemacht. Glückwunsch.
Ja, es hat sehr, sehr gut funktioniert, muss ich echt sagen. Ich habe gestern nah gestanden und habe in Kurve 12 gedacht, naja, okay, der Saisonstart ist auf keinen Fall so gelaufen, wie ich gesagt habe, dass er laufen sollte, um einfach Dinge zu verbessern, von Rennen zu Rennen besser zu sein als letztes Jahr. Und das haben wir heute ich habe mich zurückgefahren in meine Versprechen oder mein Plan für dieses Jahr, und das war sehr, sehr gut. Wir hatten einen Top-Start. Super schöner Kampf mit dem Robert Wickens in der ersten Runde, sehr, sehr fair, und hatte dann einfach einen sehr guten Speed.
Was für ein turbulentes erstes Rennwochenende der DTM, der absolute Wahnsinn. Gestern wurde so viel Blech produziert, unter anderem leider warst du da auch involviert, aber jetzt das Rennen heute phänomenal, ein zweiter Platz. Ist das typisch für die DTM, dieses Hoch und Runter?
Ja, ich glaube schon. Also wir versuchen immer alle, es ist unser Schlagwort des Jahres bei BMW, wir müssen so konstant wie möglich sein, und das versuchen wir hinzubekommen, aber es klappt halt nicht immer. Wenn es so eng umkämpft ist, ist es unheimlich schwer im Qualifying die Runde zusammenzubringen, und gestern im Rennen war es halt einfach ein riesen Chaos, aber heute umso besser. Heute lief alles, wie es hat laufen sollen, und haben alles richtig gemacht, guten Start gehabt, schöne Kämpfe gehabt mit dem Robert Wickens in der ersten Runde, und dann hatte ich eine gute Pace und speziell auch am Boxenstopp, obwohl ich im Verkehr rausgekommen bin, irgendwie habe ich es geschafft, da durchzukommen, und Auto hatte eine gute Pace, konnte den Maxime holen. Und dann zum Schluss war ich am Augusto dran und bin rangekommen und habe gewusst, okay, ich muss einen Schuss machen und dann direkt weg, dass er nicht mit DRS zurückschlagen kann. Und das hat sehr gut funktioniert und jetzt bin ich happy nach meinem etwas schlechten Einstand bei meinem neuen Team beim Test hier das Auto in Kurve 1 völlig zu zerlegen. Es ist ein Geschenk an meine Mechaniker, an mein ganzes Team, an meinen Ingenieur Olaf und Benny und meinen Teamchef der Stefan Reinhold und natürlich auch an meine Frau. Heute ist Muttertag, deswegen gibt es ein kleines Geschenk. Ich habe heute Morgen noch geschrieben, ich werde heute versuchen, eine Trophäe mit nach Hause zu nehmen als Muttertagsgeschenk und es hat funktioniert und somit geht es an meine Frau und freue mich auf meinen kleinen Sohn zu Hause.
Ein Mann, der seine Versprechen hält, finde ich sehr gut. Timo, vielen Dank und wir sehen uns in 2 Wochen wieder dann in Spielberg. Bis dann, machen Sie es gut. Tschüss. Auf Englisch auf, 2, 3 Fragen und tschüss, ne? See you in Spielberg.
Thank you.